Thank you for Herr Doctor. Without you, we never would have known where to excavate for the portal.
My information is always correct. Did I not tell you the American would be at the train station? And where you could track Caroline Becker?
How's it going, guys? Cameron here, Canadian Gamer, coming at you with another video. Now today, I wanted to give you guys my final thoughts, not really a review, but my final thoughts on Wolfenstein 2009. Now, I don't want this video to be extremely long. I don't think you guys do either. But I wanted to give my thoughts on this because I've heard so much about this game over the last decade, and it's one game that I've always been looking for and I have never been able to find. I remember of all people, it was actually Dean Thompson with Escape to Gaming when I used to communicate with that guy before he went off the rails. It's a story for another day. He used to talk with glowing praise about this game, along with another Raven Software developed game called Singularity, which to this day I haven't played either, and I'm kind of interested in picking that one up as well. So let me know in the comments below if any of you guys have played Singularity, and maybe I'll pick that one up as well. So anyways, I want to talk about this game, but the first thing I want to talk about is not the game itself as far as the gameplay is concerned and my experiences. I want to talk about how this game came to be. Because Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which I played a couple of months ago and I absolutely enjoyed the hell out of, that game came out in 2001. And I can't even remember who developed that game. I don't think it was Raven. I think it was another dev team that did that one. I just can't remember. But that being said, that came out on the PS2 and the original Xbox and the PC as well. Now, 2009, so we're talking like, what's that, 8 years later? A loose sequel, Wolfenstein, which we have here, which technically it's its own name. You know how a lot of days we get games now where they take the name of the franchise and they don't put an extra bit on the end of the title. It's like a reboot. Well, technically, I guess you would say this is the first time This is the first time we've ever had a Wolfenstein that didn't have anything attached to it at the end, because if you remember, I think the original Wolfenstein game from like the early 80s that was on like the Atari 2600 or whatever it was back in the day, even that had like a long name to it. And then Wolfenstein, the one most of us remember from the early 90s, was Wolfenstein 3D. So this is the first time where we had just a Wolfenstein game. I just wanted to get that out there. Anyways, this game comes out in 2009, and at that time we were getting flooded with a lot of first-person shooters. And not only that, we were getting a lot of first-person shooters that were beyond, that basic type of linear first-person shooter like the original Doom, Wolfenstein 3D, the corridor shooters of yesteryear. So when this game came out, people were like over that. People had been over that style of gameplay ever since, I guess you could say, Doom 3 came out and Half-Life 2 and the original Half-Life. People had moved on from this style of FPS. So when this came out, it didn't sell very well. It moved about 100,000 units the first month it came out worldwide, and then obviously it would have declined from there. So, the game's developed by Raven Software, okay? And it's published by Activision, okay? Are you with me on that? Wrap your head around that. And the project was overseen by id Software, okay? This is 2009 pre-acquisition, okay? So the game comes out. It doesn't sell well. It got lukewarm reception from the critics. And a couple of months later, id Software gets acquired by ZeniMax Studios, which owns Bethesda, right? And what else happened there? Shortly thereafter, Raven Software got acquired by Activision, I believe, right? And then Raven Software got put in this position where their main bread and butter now is the Call of Duty games. I think even Raven Software, shortly after this game came out, they had a little bit to do with the original Black Ops game, which came out. And ever since, Raven Software has had a significant part in play with, is that how you say it? Play in part? With the modern day Call of Duty games, for sure. Even Cold War, for sure. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's a pre-merger game. And the reason why it's so interesting is because after Bethesda acquired id Software, and also Bethesda acquired the likeness of this IP, basically, is what I'm trying to say, Wolfenstein. Bethesda did everything they could to get the general public to forget about this game, okay? They removed it from digital storefronts, okay? Because let's not forget, 5 years later, the Wolfenstein franchise was rebooted by Machina Games? And we can talk about that another day. I haven't actually played those games. But obviously Bethesda didn't want this to play a factor in the canon, okay? They wanted to remove this one from the equation. And the reason why I say all that, okay, is because right now if you want to play this game, you pretty much have to seek out a copy on the PS3 or the Xbox 360. You cannot buy this game digitally anymore, as far as I'm aware. You can't buy it on your PC. It was removed from Steam, probably all the other platforms out there of the day. So this is potentially one of those games that could go up in price as the years go on. This is going to be sought after. I already had a hard enough time finding it, So all that being said, what do I think of this game? Well, I want to just read you something here straight off of Wikipedia just to give you an idea of what this game is all about, and we'll go from there. So the story is set in the fictional town of Eisenstadt during World War II, which the Nazis have enforced martial law in order to excavate rare Nachson crystals necessary to access the Black Sun dimension. As the game progresses, happenings in Eisenstadt become stranger. Military patrols are replaced by supernatural creatures, etc. Locations in the game include the town's sewers, a tavern, a hospital, a farm, an underground mining facility, a church, and an SS headquarters, a dig site and caverns, a cannery, a radio station, a paranormal base, a general's home, a castle, an airfield, and a large zeppelin. And at the very end of the game, you access the Black Sun dimension, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But all that being said, what do I think of this game? You guys are going to laugh at me, but I'm going to give this game a perfect 10 out of 10. Right off the hop, I'm not wasting any time. I'm going to tell you guys I'm giving this a 10 out of 10 for a number of reasons, okay? Already at the 9-minute mark. Wow. The first reason is this game does it has, like, if I have a list with a bunch of boxes to check off, this checks off every box on the list, okay? I like the linear first-person shooters, okay? I don't like Doom 2016 and Doom 2016, or excuse me, the reboot, the sequel, Doom Eternal. I liked everything about those games but the gameplay. If that makes any sense to you guys, let me know. Okay, I did not like the gameplay in those games. This is the type of first-person shooter I like, okay? You get, I think in this case there was 10 levels, and it's linear, okay? From A to B, okay? It's really easy to play the game. You get a handful of weapons. It's not too convoluted. The controls are just perfect the way that they should be. Okay, the game uses an enhanced version of the id Tech 4 engine, which was used in my favorite game of all time, Doom 3. And man, the game has shades of Doom 3 in it, let me tell you. I've got a few clips I took using my camera. Unfortunately, I couldn't record any proper gameplay footage because that would involve holding my phone and my controller at the same time. I didn't have the camcorder hooked up to record the TV, so you get what you get here. But the lighting, the way the lighting flickers, the colors, the ambience, very much a Doom 3 aesthetic to it. All of the levels are very unique. Like I said, you go to a hospital, you go to this huge Zeppelin aircraft in the sky, you go to Castle Wolfenstein, and at the end of the game, you go to the Black Sun dimension. It was so good. Let me tell you, it was so good. And I'm getting ahead of myself here. When you start the game, you're greeted with possibly the most badass video game start screen I've ever seen in my life. You have this screen, the iconic Wolfenstein music is playing. You've got the Nazi soldiers in the background walking up a hill with a tank. It's just the best video game startup screen I think I've ever seen in my life. It was amazing. Amazing. Now the game has what I like to call, it's kind of like a hazy, like a greenish blue filter, which a lot of games on the PS3 and the Xbox 360 back in the day utilized. One that comes to mind when I think of it is always Burnout Paradise. I don't know if you guys have played that game, but it always had like a greenish hue. And I find in that game it didn't really work that well. But in this game, it works really well. And they even have it on the front cover. It's all lit up blue like this with the red font. Well, when you're in the game, while everything kind of has like a greenish tinge to it depending on the level, it kind of works well because the Nazi flags are like a bright red up on the walls and everything. And it's a nice contrast. So, yeah, as far as the graphics are concerned, amazing. Art design, fantastic. If there's one negative I can say about this game, other than the fact that it does run at a sub 30 frames per second, but that's got more to do with the PS3. It would be cool if you could play this game upscaled in like 4K resolution at like 60 frames or 120 frames per second. Man, if I guess whoever owns the rights to this game now, Bethesda maybe, if they could re-release this game like an HD remaster, I would play this game again. I would go all the way through it again. That would be amazing. When you shoot the NPCs in this game, okay, depending on where you are, where they're located, they'll actually go, ah! And they'll flip over like a railing as an example, and they'll fall all the way down to the lower levels. It's so cool. And the game has so much blood in it. Blood, blood, blood. There's blood splattered everywhere, okay? You can even walk up to an NPC that is dead on the ground, put your gun to its head, and blow its head off, okay? You can't do that with so many modern games, including the modern id Software games like Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, and a host of other ones as well, okay? Another one that comes to mind is the Far Cry series, okay? Because everything, to a point, is PG-13. I'm sorry, it is. This game, all bets are off. This is just, like, no fucking around. Blood everywhere. And destructible environments. This is something that I love in first-person shooters. I love destructible environments, and this has it. You can smash windows. You can smash pallets. Okay, you can dismember corpses on the ground. It's awesome. It's fantastic. It's good. The game is, well, I played it on easy, but at first it's fine. The difficulty is just right. At the end, I was getting my ass handed to me. Almost every level at the end, there's a boss battle, which is really, really cool. And the thing is now, going full circle to what we talked about at the beginning of the video, when this game came out, okay, people wrote it off. But now, if you guys watch Metal Jesus Rocks, he talks about it too. Now in the year 2023, everybody's into what they like to call the boomer shooter, okay? We're talking like the old school first-person shooters from the 90s, okay? Duke Nukem 3D, Blood, Shadow Warrior, Hexen, Heretic, which was another game developed by Raven Software, and this would be considered a boomer shooter, okay? There's nothing complex about it. You're going through a bunch of entertaining, fun set pieces, and you're working your way all the way up to Castle Wolfenstein. And then when you get to the very end of the game, it's one of the best boss encounters I have ever seen. It was so good. I'm not going to ruin it for you here. And the other thing I wanted to mention too, I talked about it when I was reading the synopsis off of Wikipedia. You get like this medallion, okay? And what the medallion does is it has 4 traits to it, or 4 powers, if you will, okay? One of them is the ability to see through walls. So when you use the medallion, okay, depending on where you are, you could walk through a wall and uncover either a secret passage or probably the necessary way through to complete the level. Okay, so you have that. That's really cool. You have the ability to slow down time. So let's say you go into a building, right? And let's say there's a bunch of electricity all over the place, right? Well, you can slow down time so that you can get up and around all the electricity, depending on where it's going, the currents are going, and you can get your way through. Because if you don't slow down time, it's going to be going too fast and you won't be able to get through, as an example. You have the ability to have the ability to do way more damage with your weapons. So if you use that off the medallion, let's say you go into a room and you're confronted with a bunch of enemies that are just a bitch to kill, okay? You use that aspect, that power of the medallion, you'll be able to put those guys down no problem, okay? And the last thing is, the last power you get from the medallion is kind of like an extra shield. So if you want to go through like the town, as an example, there's a bunch of enemies shooting at you, you can use your shield and you can run as fast as possible through the town without shooting anybody. While they're shooting you, you're not taking any damage because you're using your shield. Now the thing with the medallion is it's only good for like 20 seconds, and then the power of the medallion, it runs out. And the only way for you to replenish it is there's special spots within the world, and you can tell where they are because it's almost like a mirage. Like in the corner of a building, as an example, you'll see like heat off a pavement, and you walk up to it and all of a sudden it goes whoosh, 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 and it refills the power of the medallion so you can use it again. And that becomes very handy later on in the game when you're getting into these crazy encounters. You're going to need to use the medallion as much as possible. So I thought that was really cool as well. I got all the way through the game without having to use a guide or a walkthrough for the most part, with the exception of one part. I got really stuck. And the funny thing is I went to bed that night and I was thinking in my sleep, I'm like, maybe that's what I'm supposed to do. And I should have just went back the next day and tried it out, because I looked it up and it was exactly what I had thought. So, yeah, the game is really good. I know I'm probably missing other stuff I wanted to talk about as well. But yeah, the game is really good. It's really fun. Fun factor is a 10 out of 10. Controls are a 10 out of 10. Music, the classic Wolfenstein music in the game. It's perfect. I love how there's a supernatural story involved with it as well. I love how it's loosely based sequel to Wolfenstein Return to Castle. Yeah, just I can't say enough good things about it. And when you play this game, you quickly realize that Raven Software is really good at what they do. And Raven Software has been around for a long time, since like 1990. It was like founded by 2 guys, but technically the third guy found them, John Romero from id Software. So they go back a long ways, Raven Software. It's kind of unfortunate, I guess, now that those guys at Raven are basically being held at gunpoint and being told to work on Call of Duty, because when Raven Software was, able to sort of go crazy with their own artistic abilities, what they were able to come up with, like I said, Wolfenstein here, Singularity, and also, don't forget, Raven did Quake 4, okay? They did Quake 4, which I believe might have been published by Activision as well, or was it id Software? So Quake 4 is another one. It was taken down from digital stores, okay? And I'm pretty sure if you want to play Quake 4, you got to seek out a copy on the Xbox 360, I think, because it wasn't on PS3. So, yeah, in closing, I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy this game as much as Return to Castle Wolfenstein. I still put Return to Castle Wolfenstein just a hair above this, but this was really good, at least for me, because like I said, it hits all the right buttons, okay? It feels like a little bit like Doom 3 in a way, okay? It wasn't too long, okay? It was a linear first-person shooter that I was able to breeze through over the course of about a week. And man, I just enjoyed the story. I enjoyed taking my time looking at all the set pieces. It was a great experience, and I could see myself going back and playing this again. I don't regret picking it up for the $3 that I spent on it. It is kind of a shame that you can't buy this game anymore. You have to get yourself an old school copy. But you know what? It felt good playing it on the PS3 with the PS3 controller in my hands. I felt a bit of nostalgia for sure. So with that game out of the way, you guys are probably wondering what's going on with Starfield. I probably shouldn't have ordered Starfield online because what's happening is Best Buy is shipping it on September 5th. Okay? They're shipping it on September 5th, which means I probably won't even get it until like September 8th or 9th. Okay? So I'll be way late to the party on that. Meanwhile, the Steelbook has already been shipped. I'll be getting that, well, Monday's a holiday, so I'll be getting that on Tuesday. So there's a little ways to go before I can play Starfield. But that doesn't matter. We're here to talk about Wolfenstein. And I hope you guys can, at some point, give it a chance. Go out, find yourself a copy. You will not regret it. You might want to pick it up for the 360. It might run a little bit better. But even if you get it for the PS3, I'm telling you, man, oh, so much fun. Anyways, I'm going to cut it off there. This video is already way too long. Almost at the 23-minute mark. I hope you guys enjoyed this sort of final thoughts on Wolfenstein 2009. And thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a great long weekend. Stay safe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And if you're drinking, make sure you call an Uber. Don't drink and drive. Okay? Have a good night.